do it. And in case you're wondering, if you're a match, donating, it's a lot easier than you think. So wherever you are, go ahead and swab that cheek. Go to giftoflife.org and get a free kit sent to your home, or find a donor drive in your area so that you can swab a cheek and save a life. It's only a minute of your time, but it can give someone else the rest of their life.
My Hometown is made possible by Herald Community Newspapers. For more local news, visit liherald.com. Got a story to tell? Call 516-569-4000.
WHPC.
And now we return to My Hometown.
Welcome back to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, along with our guest today, Karen Michike, the Executive Director of Literacy Nassau. Karen, as we were talking, Literacy Nassau has a lot of volunteers. So I'd like to first find out, who are these volunteers? Is there kind of a special nature that they come in? Is it younger, older, children, people from a certain profession?
Typically, we attract mostly retired volunteers. I will say we get a lot of retired teachers, as I'm sure you can imagine. But we get retired folks from all over the career map. These are people who have some time, who want to do something meaningful with that time. And what we offer to them is something that's every week, something that is intellectual. It's not, I'm not knocking like animal shelters because I used to volunteer at one, or like soup kitchens, but something that requires a little bit more planning and more thought, that, you develop something and you see lifelong results from the time that you put in. So those are the types of folks who come to us as volunteers, and they're wonderful.
Now, why do they volunteer? They just like you? It's in a nice location? Or
No, it's not
they
got
like
anything
that
to do with
address?
me.
What is it, 1 Ivy Lane?
No, I don't think it's that. I think they volunteer because they have a passion for it. In some way, shape, or form, they know that literacy has shaped their lives, right? We all know that it's incredibly important to be able to communicate. And so whether it's that, they have a family member who struggles to communicate, or that they themselves come from immigrant grandparents or whomever, and they've seen it in their life in some way, they want to give back to that population. And this is an easy way to do that.
Do they come back with a lot of interesting experiences from, as they're working with you? Can you share some with us?
Absolutely, of course. I can tell you a really neat story, actually. We've had volunteers who come to us from, all over the map. But I have one volunteer who, his mother was a survivor of the Holocaust. And he remembers distinctly about when she was here in America and she was studying for the citizenship test. He was a young child at that time. And he helped her study. And her getting that citizenship, he, as a child, saw how much it meant to her, that it shaped his entire career path as a result. And as a result, he ended up working for the federal government for his entire career. And he attributes that to his mom. So he fell in love with Literacy Nassau because of, as one of many things, because of that component, that citizenship component, and the way in which we are able to shape people and develop them so that they can go on for citizenship. He'll tell that story to you himself. And I feel like he volunteers with us to kind of give back in memory of his mom and in honor of his mom.
Now, Karen, it sounds like we talked about it would be a natural teachers, et cetera, but I think you have volunteers from all over and other
of course.
professions.
Absolutely, we do.
So if there's a policeman out there, a retired detective, fireman,
sure,
a teacher who maybe splits their time doing a little sub work or something, this could be something. And teachers, the ones I know particularly, they can retire so early, 58 or 60. They have so many good years.
Exactly.
And it makes you feel good to have some place to go and to be putting in some time.
Of course.
And that's a great lead-in for what I'm going to ask you next. So if the teacher, the volunteer, or someone who may need your services from Literacy Nassau, tell us, where do we go? How do we contact you?
Oh, well, for sure. You can always call us at 516-867-3580, or you can find us online at www.literacynassau.org.
And that wonderful address, and where is it? Wantagh?
It's in Wantagh. It's 1 Ivy Lane.
I'm going to
right
keep
around
saying
the corner
that.
from Wantagh Avenue.
I just think that's such a neat address. So,
yes.
Now, Some of the people that you've helped over the years, you talked about one of the volunteers, but this must be very rewarding. Some jobs come back to me, like the fireman who can save a life, or even if it's a kitten or just the house from burning all the way down. Can you tell us about the people you've touched?
Actually, yes, I have a great story for that. So there's a gentleman who joined our program as a student probably about 12 years ago. He's a basic learner, which means that he was born in America, born and raised, I believe, in Montgomery, Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. He was a victim of segregation in schools. He didn't have access to great schooling. And then as he went through his life, it also turned out that he had an undiagnosed learning disability. So he could not read or write when he came to our program in his 60s. He lived his whole life here on Long Island, the majority of his adult life on Long Island, working at King Cullen, stocking shelves. And how he figured out how to stock the shelves was based on the pictures on the cans. So, for example, if you see a can of Campbell's soup, it looks a certain way. It has certain characters on it. He would put them together. He knew how to do it that way. He worked with a tutor of ours for easily 10 years, possibly even more than that. And they worked one-on-one together at the local library for at least 2 hours a week. And he learned how to read over the course of that 10 years. And as a result, he is so enamored with our program that he decided a couple of years ago that he wanted to give back. So he got trained to become a volunteer to lead one of our Next Chapter book clubs, which are the book clubs we run for adults with developmental disabilities. So now you can find him at a Panera in Belmore on Monday mornings leading a book club with adults with developmental disabilities. It's so amazing.
There's so many parts to that story. Not only is it the initial part that we hear about this gentleman learning and that, but you have people who have trouble with reading and literacy.
Of course.
And you have book clubs called The Next Chapter, which I think is a great name for that.
Thank you.
You're filled with great names. I think One Ivy Place and the Next Chapter. Karen, at this point, we'd just like to remind our audience that they're listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, and our guest today is Karen Michike. She is the Executive Director of Literacy Nassau. Karen, you were telling me before when we talked about schools, if someone cannot read, that's really waste of time. You can say they have 8 years sitting in class, but literally they're just sitting there, probably bored and probably making trouble. So is there anything you would like to say out to the people who are listening here about what you do and maybe with their own school system and their children?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, if you're a parent and you're listening to this and you suspect that something's going on with your child and that they can't read or write or spell or something's up, we can certainly see them for very baseline testing just to give you a sense of whether or not we think that they might be dyslexic. It's not a clinical type of test. It's like an hour long. But we're trying to expand this program so that we can provide donation-based tutoring services to as much of Nassau and Suffolk as needs it. I can tell you that 20% of the population has a language-based learning disability, and that's 1 in 5 kids. So there are definitely kids in every single classroom across, not just across Nassau, but across the country, who are struggling. And it's very inequitable, in my opinion, that the New York State Education Department can't do more about that. But that's why we're here. We feel like as a nonprofit organization, Literacy Nassau, it's our job to provide literacy services to those who need it the most. And why not start with kids?
A great point, and especially since they have the most years, of course, they're going to live longer with each generation. And if they're sitting there bored and getting in trouble, that may be the reason.
That's right.
That this isn't making sense. We think they're just rambunctious or overactive or had too much sugar.
Right.
But it might be that they're seeing the world totally different.
And the most interesting thing about that is that children with learning disabilities typically have very high IQs. So remember I said about the creative side of the brain,
right.
They are very smart kids, so it doesn't compute as to why they're struggling so much with reading, writing, and spelling. People attribute it to laziness or to boredom or to ADD or whatever, but really it's that they can't make sense of what they see in front of them.
So a parent or a good friend or a neighbor or a teacher who's hearing this, you might just really open up that secret door, if we want to call it that, to a child's life, the potential, or maybe even an adult as they're growing up that no one ever told them, that they have this ability. Once they can read a few words to put together with their creative side, I'm not joking about this, but the cure for some diseases, cancer, for some animals, for some school systems, it might be right there. Their brilliance may come out. They have it, but they can't add to it because of their literacy disability.
Absolutely. And the worst part is that this is fixable. I mean, this is a fixable thing. It's not curable. I'll say that up one side and down the other. It's not curable, but it's able to be remediated. We can help a child learn how to read if they struggle with this. So it's important that people know that such a service exists.
Now, I heard a new term in there. Use the words donation-based fee schedule. Can you tell us what that is?
Sure. Well, I didn't say fee schedule because that takes away from the whole donation-based thing. So it's donation-based tutoring, which basically means that if I were to have a dyslexic child, which I actually do, and I were to go out and look for an Orton Gillingham licensed tutor, it would cost me easily $200 an hour for private services. So what we provide is the same level of services as what I would get for $200 an hour for whatever donation the family can afford. So you decide. You do have to pay something. It can be as little as $1 a lesson, but you do have to pay something because we want everyone to have skin in the game. But you pay whatever it is that your family can afford because we believe that education should be accessible to everyone.
Not only is that wonderful, but I don't think if we talk to any parent, if they saw a severe bruise, if they saw something that looks like a broken arm, a broken finger, or a bodily injury that requires something more than a Band-Aid or a little medication, they would certainly go to a doctor, a hospital, emergency, etc. This is the child's mind that the other illness will probably heal itself in a couple of days, weeks, or at best months. But this is something they're going to go on with, be miserable. You, the parent, are going to be called into school, etc. So this is the time to do something. And it sounds like Literacy Nassau is willing to do all this. I mean, and for whatever that donation-based offering is, or
That's
tuition.
Right. Yes, we are.
And it's a great act. It's something they can do for you. They can help and really maybe unleash some great potential.
Definitely.
Tell us some people out there who might be thinking of volunteering, or someone might say, wait, I'm not a volunteer. I was a conductor for the railroad or a plumber. Are they into this? Who are you looking for?
I'm looking for anyone. If you are interested in reading, writing, speaking English, spelling, citizenship, you name it, adults with developmental disabilities, I'm looking for anyone who is interested in helping out. We will train you. That's part of what we do best, actually, is we were founded in training, and training is one of the greatest things that we have to offer the community. So we will gladly train you. And I'm just looking for people who have some time and who want to give back. And,
of course you know this, but a lot of people, you get tired of one career. You've done it for 30 or 35 years, and I hear more and more people say, it's time, it's time. But maybe, and I think with them, once you go into something else, it's different. You're willing to train.
Sure.
So that that painter, that conductor, that landscape person might say, wow, this is what I've been looking for. I never thought I could divert into this. Give yourself a chance as a potential volunteer. Give Karen a call. Look into it. You may find such rewarding activities. And I'll tell you from sitting here, Karen's a very nice person. She's a very passionate person about what she does. And it sounds like you're going to change some lives for the better. So if you've been thinking or looking for something, Karen's going to give you the key information, where to call, where to go on the website.
Of course, yes. By all means, please give us a call at 516-867-3580 or check us out on the web at www.literacynassau.org. If email's your thing, you can email us at mail, M-A-I-L, at literacynassau.org.
And if you want to jump in your car, that cool address is
1 Ivy Lane, Wantagh, New York.
So you can go pass by and say, hey, while I'm here, maybe I'll just stop in and say hello to Karen, say I heard you on the radio, and maybe there's a position for me. Karen, thank you so much for being with us today. We'd like to thank our guest, Karen Michike. She is the Executive Director of Literacy Nassau. Thanks for listening to My Hometown on 90.3 WHPC.
We like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to whpc@ncc.edu. My Hometown is produced by Jim Green, executive producer. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.